This is Global Watch on your digital first Pan-African news network, TOS Television. I am Abigail Okwade. The police said at least 8 people were killed after a gunman opened fire at a FedEx facility in Indianapolis late Thursday before also killing himself. Multiple other people were transported to hospital with injuries. Ganya Cook, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department officer, told reporters on Friday morning that the shooting was reported shortly after 11 p.m. and officers arrived to an active shooter incident.
After a preliminary search of the grounds, inside and out, we have located 8 people at the scene with injuries consistent to gunshot wounds. Those 8 were pronounced deceased here at the scene. We have been made aware of multiple other people with injuries who have been transported to local hospitals or who have transported themselves to local hospitals. We know for sure that we had 4 people transported by ambulance, 1 in critical condition with gunshot injuries consistent with gunshot wounds. We had 3 others that were transported with various other injuries. And then we had 2 other people that were here at the scene, treated by medical staff, and then released.
A search found 8 people deceased with injuries consistent with gunshot wounds, and multiple residents sustained gunshot injuries during the shooting. The number does not include the shooter. Several mass shootings have taken place in the U.S. over the past weeks. On March 31, 4 people, including a 9-year-old boy, were shot dead in Southern California. A week earlier, 10 people, including a police officer, were killed in a shooting incident in Colorado. On March 16, 8 people, including 6 Asian women, were killed in shootings at spas in Georgia. In Hong Kong, 5 leading pro-democracy advocates were sentenced to jail by a court in Hong Kong on Friday for organizing a march during the 2019 anti-government protest that triggered an overwhelming crackdown from Beijing. Those sentenced, including Martin Lee, the city's so-called father of democracy and former lawmaker, as well as pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai. According to 9 advocates, a total of 9 advocates were sentenced to jail, but 4 of them, including Martin Lee, had their sentences suspended after taking their ages and achievements into consideration. They were found guilty earlier this month of putting together a massive protest in August of 2019, where about 1.7 million people marched in opposition to a bill that would have allowed suspects to be extradited to mainland China for trial. The police did not authorize the protest. Li Xingyong, a pro-democracy activist who helped organize annual candle night vigils in Hong Kong on the anniversary of the bloody crackdown on pro-democracy protests in Beijing's Tiananmen, was sentenced to 12 months in prison. Still on Hong Kong pro-democracy protests, for taking part in an unauthorized assembly during the 2019 mass pro-democracy protest in the Chinese-ruled financial hub, Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai would serve 12 months in prison. District Court Judge Amanda Woodcock gave Lai a 15-month sentence, reduced by 3 months in mitigation. The tycoon faces another 6 charges, 2 of which were imposed under the country's new national security law, which can carry a maximum term of life in prison. It is possible that prosecutors could further file charges against him. Estimated to be worth more than $1 billion, the 73-year-old founder of Apple Daily is a fierce critic of Beijing. The verdict comes as the mainland is increasingly cracking down on Hong Kong's rights and freedoms. Lawmakers in France have adopted a law concerning sex with minority and incest after a social media firestorm touched off incest allegations against a popular intellectual earlier in the year. On Thursday, the National Assembly voted unanimously to make 15 the age of consent, classifying sex with children under that age, as well as incestuous sex with anyone under age 18, as rape and punishable up to 20 years in jail. This is an historic law for our children and our society, Justice Minister Eric Dupont-Moretti told lawmakers, adding that it sends a clear message that children are off limits. The new law also entails stricter punishments on internet pedophilia. Anyone caught grooming children under age 15 online will be facing 10 years in prison and will pay a fine of 150,000 euros. The new law made an exemption for consensual relations between a minor and a young adult up to 5 years older. A previous attempt by French lawmakers to set the age of consent floundered in 2018. It was inspired by the case of a 28-year-old who was caught having sex with an 18-year-old girl but was initially not charged with rape. You are watching Global Watch. More stories after the break. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. Iran has begun 60% uranium enrichment at its Natanz plants to its highest level ever, edging closer to weapons-grade levels to pressure in talks in Vienna aimed at restoring its nuclear deal with world powers, the country's nuclear chief said on Friday, days after an explosion at the atomic site that Tehran blamed on Israel. Israel, which opposed the nuclear deal, has not formally commented on the incident at Natanz. Iran has said its decision to increase enrichment to its highest level ever was in response to sabotage at its key nuclear site at Natanz on Sunday by Israel. International inspectors already said Iran planned to do so above ground at its Natanz nuclear site, not deep within its underground halls, hardened to withstand airstrikes. Iran and global powers are meeting in Vienna to try to rescue a 2015 nuclear deal abandoned by Washington 3 years ago, in an effort potentially complicated by Tehran's decision to ramp up uranium enrichment. The 2015 agreement sought to make it harder for Iran to develop an atomic bomb. Abbas Araghchi, Iran's chief nuclear negotiator at nuclear talks in Vienna, said earlier this week that Iran will activate 1,000 advanced centrifuge machines at Natanz. A government-appointed board of inquiry has found that more than half the passports Cyprus issued to rich foreigners in an investment scheme were illegal. The program was terminated last year after a corruption scandal embarrassing the island's center-right administration. More than 3,000 foreign investors who stumped up a minimum of 2 million euros were given Cyprus passports between 2013 and 2019, with the scheme proving popular with Russians, Ukrainians, Chinese, and Cambodians. According to Myron Nicolatos, who chaired the inquiry, the interim report gives statistically data concerning illegal naturalizations, which are those in the view of the committee, were issued by exceeding the boundaries of the law, and those are 51.81% of the total. He said some others were within the proper legal framework, but did not meet some legal criteria which applied at the time. In tens of cases, the Commission recommended rescinding citizenship, Nicolatos added, without giving details. The European Commission launched infringement procedures against Cyprus over the scheme last year, arguing that granting EU citizenship for predetermined payments without any genuine link to the state concerned undermined EU citizenship. In business, China's economy grew a record 18.3% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the same quarter last year. The National Bureau of Statistics, which released the country's first quarter data, said the national economy made a good start. It is the biggest jump in gross domestic product since China began keeping quarterly records in 1992. In the first quarter of 2020, China's economy shrank 6.8% due to the nationwide lockdowns at the peak of its COVID-19 outbreak. Industrial output for March rose 14.1% over a year ago, where retail sales grew 34.2%. Comparing growth from the last quarter of last year with the last quarter of 2020, the Chinese economy grew by a far smaller 0.6%. The figures nevertheless suggest China has continued to gain economic momentum. China is the only major economy to register growth in 2020, albeit its weakest in decades, at 2.3%. China has set an economic growth target of 6% for 2021 after scrapping its target last year. And on the entertainment scene, tickets for arena shows by Alicia Keys, Haim and Mrs. Browns in June in the United Kingdom are still on sale despite the government's reopening roadmap. In February, the government said full-capacity indoor events would not return in England until at least 21 June. Fans can only get refunds if shows are officially rescheduled or cancelled. Alicia Keys is scheduled to play in Manchester, London, and Birmingham from 6 to 10 June. Her spokeswoman confirmed the tour would not happen this June. June. A spokeswoman for Mrs. Brown's Boys Comedy Tour, scheduled to start in Hull on 7, said the event are likely to announce new plans next week. Meanwhile, Ham are due to play in Manchester, London and Nottingham from 15th June. Julian Knight, which is a Member of Parliament, Chair of the House of Commons Culture Select Committee, said it was concerning that tickets were still on sale for events that would not take place as planned. The not before roadmap date of 21 June had given the industry the clarity it was waiting for. Now is the time for the industry to do the responsible thing, Knight said. A message on the website of Manchester AO Arena, which is due to host Keys' first UK date, said the venue was continuing to liaise with promoters and event organizers of all shows that are scheduled to take place before June 21 of 2021, I beg your pardon, expecting more changes to the event calendar. And that is it on Global Watch for today. For more updates, do visit our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. Do follow and like our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to subscribe on YouTube. I am Abigail Okwade. Remain safe and thanks for watching.